The lights went out on the reunion stage just as Karlie Redd leaned forward. Her voice low but fierce, and dropped the bombshell everyone had been whispering about. "He spent the night," she declared, eyes flashing under the glare of the cameras. A stunned hush swept through the audience. Phones whipped out and faces went pale as the word Kirk ricocheted around the room. Rumors had been swirling for weeks: late-night messages, cryptic social media posts, and hushed hallway whispers, but no one was prepared for Karlie's unfiltered confession. Fans are shocked, alliances are cracking, and the Frost family stands on the brink of implosion. Emotions ran high as Karlie paced backstage, replaying every stolen glance and hidden text. Determined to reveal the truth or set the record ablaze. Back in the green room, Rasheeda Frost's composure shattered the moment she heard Karlie's claim. "You lied to me," she hissed through clenched teeth, slamming a water bottle against the wall. Meanwhile, young Jock paced in agony, torn between loyalty and betrayal, as friends scrambled to pick sides. Could there be any evidence beyond Karlie's explosive statement? As whispers of a leaked DNA report and midnight rendezvous swirl through social feeds, the family is left divided, and viewers are on the edge of their seats, desperate to know whether Karlie is exposing a scandal or orchestrating the ultimate revenge. The stage is set, the players are in position, the fallout is about to begin. The fallout began the moment Karlie's words hung in the air. Backstage was a whirlwind of frantic whispers and shattered alliances. Rasheeda, her face pale and eyes blazing, slammed her hand against a locker, rattling the metal. Staff members froze, unsure whether to intervene or back away. Young Jock hovered nearby, torn between comforting Rasheeda and confronting Kirk. The tension was electric, each heartbeat echoing like a drum roll before disaster. Without a script to follow, they were all improvising their reactions to a scandal that threatened to consume them. Karlie sat on a folding chair under the harsh fluorescent lights of the green room, her chest heaving. Viewers at home were volleying theories across social media. Fans were shocked, replaying the clip on loop and scouring every frame. Alliances cracked as confidants exchanged worried glances. Some whispered that Karlie had found text messages. Others insisted she was spinning lies for attention. But nobody could ignore the weight of her accusation. Kirk Frost, the devoted husband, had allegedly spent the night with Karlie Redd. In the corridor, Kirk's footsteps faltered as he approached. His jaw trembled, sweat beaded on his forehead. He had heard the rumors, late-night calls, cryptic tweets, but he had brushed them aside, confident in his denials. Till now, when he saw Rasheeda's rigid stance and the phone pressed against her palm, displaying Karlie's damning evidence, his world inverted. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. His vulnerability was laid bare before the cameras, his carefully constructed image crumbling. Young Jock finally intervened, voice trembling with urgency. "We need to handle this now," he said, gripping Kirk's shoulder. Jock's loyalty was torn. He had called Kirk brother for years and had welcomed Karlie into their circle as a friend. Now, forced to choose between two people he cared for deeply, Jock's voice cracked. "Karlie, what proof do you have? Kirk, explain yourself." A quick question was both plea and challenge, cutting through the chaos like a knife. Karlie rose and retrieved her phone. Her fingers shook as she unlocked the screen, but her expression remained resolute. "Texts from Kirk," she said softly. "And a timestamp. Look for yourself." She handed the device to Rasheeda, whose eyes filled with tears as she swiped. Through message after message, "Can't stop thinking about last night. I'm sorry for what I said. Meet me at the old studio." The final screenshot showed a location pin dropped at Karlie's house. With an arrival time well after midnight. Rasheeda single quotes as composure shattered. She dropped to her knees, clutching the phone like a lifeline. "How could you?" she whispered, sobs racking her body. Kirk knelt beside her, panic in his eyes. "I never meant this," he pleaded. "It was a mistake." but his words sounded hollow, unable to bridge the chasm his actions had created. Jock rubbed Rasheeda's back, murmuring comfort, even as his gaze flickered to Kirk, searching for truth in his friend's haunted expression. Every person in that corridor felt the weight of the moment. Production assistants stood at attention, uncertain whether to call security or simply let the drama unfold. Overhead, cameras on standby hummed like silent witnesses. The line between performance and reality blurred. They were supposed to entertain an audience, yet their own lives had become the most explosive storyline imaginable. Karlie felt a pang of regret as she watched Rasheeda's pain. She had set out to expose a betrayal, but hadn't anticipated the depth of Rasheeda's anguish. Memories of their friendship flashed through her mind. Late-night heart-to-hearts, shared laughs, mutual support. Now those memories were tainted, forever overshadowed by deception. She bit her lip, battling guilt even as she stood firm in her conviction that the truth had to come out. Rasheeda lifted her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her voice, though shaky, carried steel. "You promised me forever," she said, staring at Kirk. "You told me I was the only one." The betrayal cut deeper because Kirk had woven his life around those promises. Kirk's shoulders sagged. He looked every bit the man who had lost everything in an instant. In that charged silence, Jock cleared his throat. "We can get through this," he offered gently. His words were a tentative bridge, a sliver of hope amid the wreckage. Jock turned to Karlie. "Now what?" he asked. Karlie glanced at her phone, then back at Jock. "We bring this out into the open," she replied. "Let the world see what's been hidden." Jock nodded, reluctantly understanding that their private pain was about to become public spectacle as they composed themselves. The next segment of the reunion loomed. They would soon step onto the stage under bright lights, cameras rolling. Every viewer would witness the raw aftermath of the bombshell Karlie had dropped. Producers signaled through earpieces, preparing cues and adjusting mics. The air crackled. With anticipation, tension mounting with each passing second. Meanwhile, word of the scandal had already spread beyond those walls. Reporters outside set up cameras, eager for any scrap of news. Fans chanted Karlie's name in the lobby. Paparazzi jockeyed for position, awaiting a reaction from Kirk and Rasheeda. The rumor mill churned faster than ever. Would Kirk confess on live television? Could Rasheeda forgive him? And was there more to the story than Karlie had revealed? Backstage monitors showed the audience filling the studio seats, oblivious to the full extent of the drama. They cheered at a clip of earlier highlights, unaware that history was about to be rewritten before their eyes. Jock settled tensely beside her, his warm presence a reminder of better days before suspicion poisoned every interaction. Kirk trailed a step behind, anxiety radiating from him in palpable waves, while Karlie met the glare of the cameras with composed determination. The set, with its bright colors and scripted segments, felt like an ill-fitting backdrop for the raw pain and betrayal charging the air. The host greeted them with her signature cheer, her words spilling over the audience's eager claps. For a moment, everyone held their breath, waiting to see if they would follow the show's carefully written outline or shred the script entirely. Karlie exchanged a meaningful glance with Jock, then turned her focus outward. She cleared her throat, voice calm but insistent, and the audience leaned forward. "We all came here tonight expecting entertainment," she began, "but there's a truth that needs to be told." Murmurs spread through the crowd as cameras panned from incredulous faces to Rasheeda's trembling expression. "Fans are shocked," the headline would read, but in that moment the studio was a crucible for something much more intense than any reality show drama. Rasheeda, single quotes S eyes narrowed. The words hit her like an ice-cold wave. Memories of laughter whispered. Secrets, promises exchanged in dimly lit rooms, all of it felt tainted now. She turned to Jock, seeking comfort in his stoic presence, but found only concern writ large on his face. Jock caught her hand beneath the table, gave it a reassuring squeeze, but his eyes flicked toward Kirk with unspoken questions. Kirk, caught in the glare of betrayal, swallowed hard. He stepped forward, quivering under the weight of Rasheeda's gaze and the expectant silence of the audience. If this is about what happened last week, he started, uncertainty quivering. In his voice, but Karlie cut in, her tone unwavering. It's exactly about that. Kirk, Karlie said softly. She held up her phone, the screen illuminating her determined face. She tapped, and the giant video wall behind them flickered to life, displaying a time-stamped message string tagged with Kirk's name. The audience gasped collectively when the first text appeared. "I can't stop thinking about you." Rasheeda's breath hitched, Jock's eyes widened, and Kirk's face went ashen. For the next 30 seconds, the studio was swallowed by the digital proof. Multiple messages, explicit. Apologies and references to the hour 3:14 a.m. when Kirk allegedly drove himself to Karlie's house. Every text struck Rasheeda like a fresh betrayal, each word a reminder of the shattered trust she'd placed in her partner. When the footage ended, silence reigned. Rasheeda rose from her seat, arms wrapped around herself, voice shaking with, "Betrayal, you lied," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "You lied to me every time you said you loved me." The camera switched to Kirk's anguished expression. He stepped forward slowly, hands raised in supplication. "Sorry," he pleaded. "I never meant to hurt you." The host looked between them, searching for a way to salvage decorum, but the moment had slipped beyond control. Jock stood, chest heaving, betraying his own conflict. He moved toward Rasheeda, offering her a shoulder to lean on, then turned his gaze to Kirk, silently demanding answers beyond an apology. Karlie watched the emotional wreckage. She'd set in motion with a mixture of triumph and regret. She had revealed the night's events. But witnessing the raw heartbreak unfold before thousands of viewers was harder than she'd anticipated. The cameras captured every twitch of Rasheeda's lips, every trembling breath, every flicker of guilt in Kirk's eyes. She felt the weight of responsibility settle over her. She had no moral high ground here, only the conviction that the truth needed to be aired. Behind her flared the bright lights of scrutiny. Tabloid headlines would follow. Social media would erupt with speculation. And the Frost family would be forever fractured, as the host attempted to steer the segment toward interviews and lighthearted banter, Jock interjected gently. "We need to talk about why this happened," he said, voice low enough that only the principal players could hear. He looked at Kirk. "What made you go there?" Kirk closed his eyes, the admission lodged like a stone in his throat. "I was lonely," he confessed. "I felt unheard at home." Karlie listened. She understood. It felt like comfort in a moment. "I wasn't thinking straight." Rasheeda's tears fell freely now, and Jock wrapped an arm around her. "That doesn't excuse it," she sobbed. "You chose her over me, Kirk." Jock's expression softened. "You both need to hear each other," he murmured. The host, sensing another dramatic twist, pivoted back to Karlie. "Is there anything else you want to add?" she asked. Karlie took a steadying breath. "Just that this isn't about me," she replied. "It's about the truth no one wanted to face." She put her phone away and turned her attention to Rasheeda, offering a nod of solidarity. The gesture carried weight of recognition that Rasheeda was the one most deeply wounded. Rasheeda gave a brittle smile, the kind that precedes either forgiveness or permanent rupture. At that moment, Kirk reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Gasps coursed through the audience. Jock raised an eyebrow. Rasheeda's sobs paused in midair. Kirk's voice trembled as he unfolded it. An email thread from his own account, addressed to an anonymous DNA lab requesting a paternity test sent days before Karlie's public claim. "I wanted certainty, Kirk. Admitted I thought if I could prove I hadn't been unfaithful, your doubts would vanish." Rasheeda's brow furrowed. Jock clenched his fists. Karlie's eyes widened in surprise. The host exhaled a nervous laugh, her professionalism wavering. "So, you were testing me instead of talking to me?" Rasheeda demanded. Kirk hung his head. "I was afraid of what I'd find," he said. "And I was afraid of losing you." The revelation sparked another round of collective gasps. Fans are shocked. Commentators would later note as the stage shimmered with fresh drama. Rasheeda turned to Jock, voice stiff. "Am I the only one who's been honest here?" Jock's expression was pained, torn between loyalty and love. He couldn't answer. The host leaned forward, sensing the magnitude of the moment. She clicked her pen, ready to move to commercial, but none of them could break free from the electric charge of revelation as the cameras cut to a break. Backstage producers scrambled to adjust the rundown. They had never seen a contributor shift so violently from friend to foe, from lover to accuser. Whispers filled the corridors. Will Rasheeda forgive Kirk? Will Karlie be ostracized for exposing the truth? Can Jock keep the peace? The audience outside buzzed like a hive, anticipation crackling as they awaited the return. On social media, hashtags trended within seconds, and news tickers updated in real time. The Frost family's implosion had become the story of the season. In the hush of the break, each of them faced their own reflection. Karlie steadied her breathing, wrestling with the consequences of her confession. Rasheeda gathered herself a mixture of fury and heartbreak, fueling her next move. Kirk rubbed his forehead, regret etched deep in every line of his face. Suddenly, a producer signaled from the wings, indicating a live feed from social media. The screen behind them lit up with tweets. Hashtag Frost family divided. Hashtag Kendra exposes. Fans shocked. Will Rasheeda forgive? Comments scrolled. Rapidly, the host turned to the camera. "Justice and healing often start with community," she said. "Your voices matter. Share your thoughts." Jock closed his eyes as if bracing for the weight of public opinion. Rasheeda glanced at the scrolling comments, anger flickering. "Public opinion shouldn't dictate our choices," she muttered. Kirk bowed his head, eyes stinging with the glare of 1,000 judgments. In that charged silence, an assistant approached Rasheeda with a small notebook. "These are transcripts of phone calls," the assistant explained quietly. "Times and dates matching Kirk's messages." Rasheeda took the notebook, flipping through pages of robotic transcripts. Jock leaned in, reading lines that confirmed. "Last week's calls lasted well past midnight, traceable to Kirk's personal number." Rasheeda's lips parted in shock. "We have proof," she said softly. "He never told me." Kirk looked stricken. Jock placed a hand on Kirk's shoulder, steadying him as the weight of his deceit layered upon itself. The host recognized the gravity of this moment and guided them back to the couch. "Evidence can hurt," she said, "but it also opens the path to accountability." Rasheeda stared at the notebook, tears falling freely now. "Accountability," she whispered to Kirk. "What does that look like to you?" Kirk inhaled deeply. "I start by handing over my phone," he said, voice firm. "You can check my messages anytime. I'll delete nothing, hide nothing." Jock looked at Rasheeda for her reaction. She swallowed. "That's a start," she said, tone brittle but real. Karlie nodded approvingly. "Transparency is key," she added. "But sometimes we need more than words." The host leaned in. "What else?" she asked. Kirk's brow furrowed. "I'll attend therapy sessions for couples and individuals," he declared. "I'll share schedules, invite you to meetings, answer any question. I'll prove change through action, not promises." Rasheeda sat back, arms crossed, eyes distant. "We'll see," she replied, voice low. As the segment approached its final act, Jock invited a counselor onto the stage via video call. The screen flickered to life with a calm, empathetic face. "Thank you for joining," the host said. The counselor greeted everyone and guided them through a brief breathing exercise, encouraging them to ground themselves before heavy conversation. The studio lights dimmed slightly as Rasheeda, Kirk, Jock, and Karlie followed the counselor's lead. The audience was hushed, absorbing every frame. After the moment of calm, the counselor addressed Rasheeda and Kirk directly. "Healing begins with listening and validation," she said gently. Rasheeda, share your hurt. Kirk, listen without defense. Rasheeda inhaled. I felt invisible, she said, voice shaking. I felt like your secrets meant I didn't matter. Kirk nodded, tears slipping. You matter above all, he said. I should have come to you first. Jock and Karlie watched, supportive, as the core of their conflict surfaced and met resolution in that vulnerable exchange. The counselor then turned to Jock. Third-party support can be crucial, she noted. Jock, your role is to offer empathy. Without taking sides, Jock nodded. I'll do my best, he said softly. Karlie, as a friend who brought truth to light, turned to Rasheeda. I'm sorry you endured that silence, she said sincerely. Rasheeda met Karlie's gaze. Rasheeda took a moment, composing herself. Tears glistened, but her posture was strong. I'm terrified, she admitted. I don't know if I can trust my heart again, but I owe it to myself to try. I'll attend therapy with Kirk, and I'll spend time healing on my own too, she inhaled, nodding to Kirk. If you keep being honest, we'll see where our love can go. Kirk's eyes brimmed as he reached for her hand, holding it gently. The host smiled, wiping a tear from her own eye. This is the beauty of vulnerability, she said. It doesn't erase pain, but it can pave the way for growth. She turned to the counselor. Any final advice? The counselor offered a simple mantra: share, listen, forgive. The audience echoed the words softly, a collective prayer for healing. The lights dimmed, leaving the stage bathed in a warm glow. Backstage, the quartet gathered for a final moment. Jock wrapped an arm around Rasheeda and Kirk, drawing them into a group hug. Karlie stood just outside, her expression warm but pensive. They held the embrace in silence, each breathing in the gravity of their journey. Cameras rolled to capture this intimate tableau, freezing the moment for viewers worldwide. As the reunion special came to an end, the host addressed the audience one last time. We've seen a family torn apart by betrayal, and we've witnessed the fragile steps toward restoration. No one knows the future, but tonight proves that truth, however painful, can be the first step to something new. She smiled as the credits began to roll, signaling the close of this chapter. In living rooms and online forums, fans debated what came next. Would Rasheeda and Kirk truly make it work? Could Jock balance his friendships? Would Karlie be welcomed back into their circle? Social media lit up with theories and well wishes. Hashtags trending into the night. For the four at the heart of this drama, the stage lights had faded, but the real show was just beginning. Estranged alliances gave way to cautious hope. Wounds remained raw, but promises had been spoken aloud. In the end, they each stepped into a new reality, one where honesty bore both the weight of pain and the promise of renewal. And though the cameras would soon turn elsewhere, the echoes of their confession, their tears, and their tentative reconciliation would linger long after the studio fell silent. And so the Frost family's most explosive chapter comes to a closeout. At least for now. You've witnessed confessions laid bare, secrets unearthed, and raw emotions spilling onto that reunion stage. Rasheeda and Kirk have taken their first shaky steps toward rebuilding trust. Jock has stood firm as both anchor and advocate, and Karlie's bombshell revelation forced a truth no one could ignore. But many questions remain unanswered. Will Rasheeda's wounded heart learn to trust Kirk again? Can Kirk prove through actions day after day that he's worthy of forgiveness? And might Karlie find her way back into the circle she shattered? In pursuit of honesty, now it's your turn. Tell us what you think. Is this a story of redemption in the making, or a cautionary tale of betrayal that can never truly heal? Do you believe a single mistake should define a relationship, or that love's resilience can conquer even the deepest wounds? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice could guide the next twist of this saga. If you're hungry for more untold revelations and insider drama from your favorite reality stars, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. And if this roller coaster of loyalty and lies kept you at the edge of your seat, Show some love with a thumbs up and share with friends who can't resist a scandal. The final DNA results may have been revealed, but the fallout is just beginning. Stay tuned for the coming episodes where alliances will be tested, new evidence might surface, and every heartfelt apology will be weighed against the echo of broken promises. Until then, keep watching, keep speculating, and remember, when it comes to the Frost family, the truth